Hello,
Hi.
welcome to the Kids Doc podcast. My name is I am Dr. Kimberly, and today's topic of discussion will be about the virtual online school experience. We're living in unprecedented times. We started with the COVID pandemic, and kids are now having to go to school online. And this is something that our country has never seen before. And so you're probably wondering, well, you're a pediatrician. Why do you care about a topic such as the online virtual school experience? Well, I just want to tell you that every day in my clinic, in my practice, I see parents who are struggling with this whole concept of the virtual classroom. Yes, this is all we have at this time until we figure out in which direction the COVID pandemic is. It going to die down? Will we have a vaccine? At this time, this is all we have. But I've heard feedback from parents and students alike about the virtual classroom experience. And I actually was a third grade teacher. And so it just made me think, about my experience as a teacher, my experience as a child who was kind of left alone at home. How are parents balancing working, having children learn at home? How are students dealing with this whole pandemic and having to have class or school online? So today I have invited a student, a parent, a school psychologist, and a teacher. And I just wanted to get their feedback about the virtual school experience, things that we're struggling with, things that we can do to make it better. And so we're going to begin the discussion actually with a student. So I just wanted to start with that perspective first. So I would like to welcome Gurleen, and she's going to share her perspective about the virtual classroom experience and just the pandemic in general. So hi, Gurleen. Thank you
Hi.
for joining us. I just want to ask you a few questions. How old are you, Gurleen?
I am 12.
12. And what grade are you in?
I'm in 7th grade.
7th grade. Okay. Gurleen, in the history of school, we've never had, I shouldn't say never had a pandemic, but nothing of this sort, okay, where the kids are now learning online. How did you first feel back in March when the pandemic first began? What were your thoughts?
I felt like, oh yay, school's out. But then, like, I had school online because school was still going on. So then I had school until May. And then after May, I started getting a little bored. So I was watching TV all day on Netflix. But then when school started, like this August, I started to get busier with my schedule.
Okay. So when it first began, were you thinking, oh, this is going to be short term? I'm going to go back to school in September.
Yeah, I felt like that.
Okay, so how did you accept the news when you figured out, wait a minute, this is going to last, we don't know for how long, and that you were going to have to start, what grade this year, 7th grade?
Mhm.
Online. How do
Mhm.
you feel about that, Gurleen?
I felt like I was like once I started school I was like, "Oh, I can't see my friends no more." But then but then we're doing school on home, so we don't have to like get dressed, go to school. So,
So
yeah.
you like that aspect about the online
Yeah.
experience. What are
Mhm.
some of the challenges that you're facing online? Do you have any issues logging on or?
Well, first I did like cuz I didn't know how to do Canvas. So like first I was kind of confused. I didn't know how to like turn in assignments and stuff. But then after a while I started to like get the hang of it and my grades started to go like get better.
Now, who do you go to if you have questions about assignments? Are the teachers readily available? How does that work, Gurleen?
So like we have like a chat, so sometimes we can ask in chat and the teacher will tell us. But and then sometimes we have like this intervention like if we need to ask questions, like our teacher will have like this Zoom meeting for kids who have questions at like 3:30, and we'll hop on that meeting, and then we'll give her the questions and she'll answer it.
All right, excellent, excellent. Now, I noticed that you said, I think you mentioned physical activity. You were in the house for a long time.
Mhm.
How do you balance sitting on the computer all day with getting physical exercise? Is there anything that you're doing at home?
So yeah, like we do have like a time period where we can stretch for like 15 minutes and like stretch and like get a little bit of exercise, and then we have class after those 15 minutes.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And how are you doing mentally? Are you afraid? Are you accepting what's going on? How are you feeling right now?
I am feeling okay. I'm accepting this pandemic. So, yeah.
You're just coping. You're
Yeah, I'm just coping
right now, and so you're okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I'm
Excellent.
okay with it.
Thank you so much for your feedback. And one last question for you, Gurleen.
Mhm.
Is there anything you feel like the schools could be doing better to help you with the classroom experience?
So far the school's doing good. I just wish like us classmates can like talk more, because sometimes we get into groups and then kids don't even say a word in it.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
so I wish we can communicate more.
Why do you think they don't? Why do you think there's a lapse in communication? What's the issue?
I think some kids may just be shy, or they just don't want to talk, so they just have their cameras off.
Right. Yeah, that's difficult. That is
Mhm.
very difficult. All right. Well, great, Gurleen. Anything else you want us to know about this experience besides what we've asked? Anything else you want to share?
No.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate your feedback. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Great. So that would mean our student perspective. And of course, every student usually has a parent. So I have Miss Dahna Rasmussen. She is a parent, and she can tell us a little bit more about maybe the ages of her children. And I just wanted to know about her experience as a parent, coping with children who are in the classroom during this pandemic. So first of all, Dahna, thank you so much for joining our panel.
Thank you for asking.
How are you feeling?
Overwhelmed, as I'm sure many parents are. You know, in the beginning, it was okay, I can do this, and you know, as an educator myself, it seems almost natural to be able to move right into this, and it is, yeah, it's becoming more and more difficult, challenging. Not that there's anything going on specifically with the children. It's just, it's the lack of interaction, the lack of socialization with my own students. For them, their lack of socialization with their peers. That's probably the biggest issue for us.
Can you tell me if you would be willing to share what it is that you do? What is your occupation?
I teach at Cal State Bakersfield. I'm a sociologist.
Okay. So for your students,
Mhm.
they are online as well.
Yes, they are.
So you're managing that, and you have children of your own.
Mhm.
How are you able to do it all?
I sometimes I just don't know. So honestly, and sometimes I just don't know. I manage my classes. I get the kids settled in the morning. They're fairly independent. But I have to obviously go behind and make sure that they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so I manage them. I get them settled first, and then I come online and I answer my emails and conduct my office hours and things of that nature. All of my classes are currently being taught asynchronously, so we're not meeting at specific times, except for those office hours, those virtual office hours that I'm conducting. But in between, I'm up and I'm watching the kids and making sure that they are where they're supposed to be and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And of course, answering any questions they may have. And if they, you know, I don't understand this, and I try and help quickly, but sometimes I don't have the answer, you know. And
Right.
so that's when we have to figure out something else to manage that current situation.
Can you tell me about some of the things that you are doing to get the answers?
Well, we're as Gurleen said, we're utilizing that after school office hour that the teachers are engaging in, which is extremely helpful. I will say this: the teachers have been extremely accommodating and helpful in all of their efforts to manage this situation. And kudos to them, because they're doing a phenomenal job. But it's, you know, if we can't get to the teacher after class, if we can't get to them within the class period, we're online Googling things. And if worse comes to worse, I'm sending an after hours message, and, again, teachers have been very responsive. So
Excellent.
just whatever seems to be the most appropriate in the moment is where we're moving from. And we just keep checking off options as they don't actually produce what we need them to.
Okay.
So
Another question for you.
Mhm.
I always worry about the parents. You have the option of, being at home with your children.
Mhm.
Do you know of any parents that are working outside of the home that have had to make arrangements for children? Do you know how they're coping with this?
I do. I know a few parents that are having to deal with this, and some of them have family members that they can call upon to help with childcare and so forth. And then I know others who are still having to send their children to public daycares, private daycares. And so it's a mixed bag, really. It's a struggle. The people that I know who are dealing with that type of a situation are really struggling. What is best for their children? Obviously, there's this dilemma, right? That they know they have to go to work in order to provide what the children need and what is needed for the household. But at the same time, they're questioning whether or not their children are safe, and whether or not they're safe, whether they're bringing something home, whether the children are going to bring something home. And so it's a very difficult time for those parents out there who are in that situation. I'm grateful. My husband goes out to work every single day, but there's at least one of us here. And so, for that, we're grateful. But the other, people that I know, other parents out there who absolutely have to go out.
Mhm.
There are other parents, and I forgot to mention this, that just have to leave their students at home. They're of that age where they can be, quote unquote, trusted. They can be safe at home.
Mhm.
There's a certain level of independence, and so they can do that. But I mean, they're children,
Yeah.
and children will be children. And I hate to use that cliche, but so you still have to, wonder, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Are they safe? Are they allowing somebody in the house? All of those general concerns.
Right. And in addition to that, you have children with special needs.
Exactly.
And I know I have a lot of patients that are on the autism spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them have regressed because they're not in the classroom. I mean, they were making great strides.
Yes.
The classroom having that structure. And so now with this setback,
Mm-hmm.
kind of having to figure out alternative methods.
Exactly.
I mean, like I said, this is what the card we were dealt. So we just have to make the best of it. And I just thought a forum like this would maybe get the ball, get the conversation rolling. So I really appreciate the feedback from a parent perspective.
Thank you.
So next we're going to move to the teacher perspective. And we have LaDwan Beard, who is a teacher, and I'm going to ask her some questions about our teachers and how they're dealing with the virtual classroom. This is something new for them as well. And like Dana mentioned, kudos to our teachers. We appreciate you. We value you. We know that you're working as hard as you can, with technology, trying to get the students to attend. I've heard a lot of the challenges from several of my patients that come in. So LaDwan, I would just like to get your perspective in terms of how are teachers coping? What resources are out there for students? What challenges have you seen with your students, with the parents? So I'll just open the forum for you to give feedback on that.
Hi, thanks for having me, Dr. Kim. I am actually a recent 2020 grad from a teaching program. And the way that COVID impacted me was in the interview process. Going into the interview process back in January, February, and then in the middle of the month, having to have everything stop because of COVID. I can remember the day I was doing student teaching, and it was March 17th. That we had to tell our students that this was our last day. We knew ahead, but and they were kinders, so they really didn't know. But it was sad. I did speak to a third grader at the school where I was student teaching, and she said, "I'm going to really miss my friends." And I could really feel her sadness. Teachers, I feel we, just like parents, we have to change. We have to modify our schedules, our programs, because this is something new for us. And those who are okay with change, we adapt. And those who kind of resist change, it's a lot harder. And it doesn't help that we have to stay inside or limit our movement. So it's like Gurleen says, she's coping, we're coping, parents, we're coping. I'm excited to see once we get back in the classroom, really, that's where it's going to show, physically in the classroom, it's going to show all those underlying impacts that COVID has brought on.
The last thing you said, LaDwan, can you say that? Can you repeat that again? It kind of muted.
Sure. I'm excited to see once we all return into the physical classroom, the impacts that COVID had, just with all of us, socially, mentally, academically, getting back into that normal,
Have you thought about any of those issues that could arise as a result of that? What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. I'm one of those, I'm a problem solver kind of people. So I'm going to look 2 and 3, 4 steps down the road to see what's going to come and what can I do to rectify that, to minimize that impact. And to me, this is where tutoring comes in so heavily. Because I'm not able to actually go into the classroom and teach, I actually started my own tutoring service, MBA, Mrs. Beard's Academy, because I know it's going to be crucial. Students are in the classroom, they're disengaged, they may be distracted. I have clients that their students are just distracted, can't focus for whatever reason, limited space in the house with multiple children, having to do distant learning, stress from all being at home in the class, at home, everyone all at once. And so I offer tutoring for those students because I know a lot of parents know my child is going to need help. I can't help them. I need someone to help them. So that's where I come in.
You mentioned a very good point, because a lot of the that I provide care for are Spanish speaking. So we have that language barrier. And we're operating under the assumption that parents know how to teach, and not everybody knows how to teach. We've all experienced good teachers, bad teachers, and a lot of parents don't understand the material. So I know the population that I provide services for, some of the parents haven't gone as far as middle school. So I'm just worried about the setbacks that we're going to experience. And as we know, certain populations of children are on the margins. They don't have internet access. They don't have computers. I know the schools provided computers, but from what I've been hearing from the students, some of those internet services are interrupted. They can't get back on. I'm just worried about the knowledge that is lost. I'm sure we'll regain it. I understand that's all we can do for now, but I'm really concerned about what I've been seeing in the clinic. And from a mental health perspective, we're going to talk about that too with Ms. Lopez, who's a psychologist, because a lot of the children that I've been seeing are anxious, they are bored, so they're getting into things. They don't know what's going to happen. They miss their friends. As humans, we need that social interaction. We underestimate, I guess, the importance of human touch. and human interaction. And right now we're told to be 6 feet apart. We can't go to school. There's just a lot that we're going to be dealing with, I think, once everything goes back to our new normal. So at this time, I'm going to have Ms. Lopez actually address some of the psychological effects of the pandemic, just maybe things that she's been seeing in the office in terms of kids coping with COVID. So if she could maybe speak on those points, that would be great.
Yes. I think that the biggest concern that I have is connectivity and the outreach, because generally I see approximately 5 to 7 students per month, up to 10 for crisis interventions, different self-harm, some ideation, and just overall emotional dysregulation. And to not have access to them has been really tough during this time. But we've been very proactive in making sure that those students and families can connect when the effects, the depressive effects, and just the overall, just the lack of socialization and just everything that they're really dealing with, how they can connect to us and we can get to them to help them through this time. And so one thing that I really want parents to know, that from the time that they make that phone call to the school, the clerk that answers the phone is trained to get the parent to the proper personnel so that we can make contact with the student. We are following protocol, COVID protocol, but I am going and doing home visits. And because there's so much that I can't do unless I see that child face to face. And with confidentiality and such, you really need to see them. So we do follow protocol, but we are making home visits.
Are there any things that you're noticing during those home visits that are a concern or?
Yes, sometimes when it's just the school being a break from their norm, they get the nutrition, the breakfasts, the lunch. Some even get dinner in the after school program. So some of our students are getting 3 meals a day. And when you look at just the time that's involved, the continuity, the all of this, the routine that happens in their school day. And then when they don't have access to that, there may be some different traumas in the home, even if it's not even something that, let's say, would warrant a CPS referral, but it's just a challenging time in the home. And just to not be able to have a reprieve that school provides throughout the day, to break that up. And they really struggle with that. And that's what's hard for me as a psychologist.
One student was telling me that was their only meal that they really got was at school, the breakfast and the lunch. And so, I know that the schools have been, I know this summer here in Bakersfield, they were providing lunches even during the summertime. But you're right,
Yes.
There might be some other things going on in the home, and the school is the only place where that child can escape. So,
Yes. And even with the meal program last spring, we were sending out upwards of 1,500 meals per day. Now we're down to about 300 meals per day because parents have gone back to work. They're not able to drive their child over to pick up the meals. The kids may be home during the day with the older sibling. No one can get to the school to get the meal. So we're definitely seeing about a 75% decrease in my school, particularly in the amount of students that are accessing the food.
Do you have any suggestions in terms of coping skills, things that parents can do and the students, things that we all can do during this pandemic to cope with what's going on? We don't know when it's going to end. Okay.
Yeah, I think across the board, just the uncertainty of the what's next, that if there's just some routine that could be imparted in the day. Of course, life gets in the way and there's tons of things that just pop up. But even if it's just 3 set things that the student will know, these things I can count on to occur at this time, these are my expectations, and just kind of rooting them to the process as much as possible. One thing that I'm suggesting to parents right now, just focus on the login times. You know, they have to log in generally 3 different times, from the synchronous learning period to the asynchronous learning period. And a lot of students struggle with getting up on time to log in, or then maybe being on the first login, but not the second and the third login. So I would say for parents to just start with that, with having the continuity of the login. Of course, there's all of the technological challenges of the dropped connections and such, and those things they're out of our control. But as long as the attempt is there, and then for parents that are able to be more involved, to even give a reward as a choice, and not going out and buying anything, but something such as a preferred snack or preferred dinner item that they are able to have because they've accomplished this task today. And just to focus on that continuity would then relieve some of that angst. Social media and such, it's challenging anyway for students, but right now they're really seeking that. And I'm concerned about not being able to process and regulate, kids not being able to do that. And that happens at the schools with the teachers, with the support staff, to be able to kind of meet out some of that stuff that happens. So just for parents to be aware of social media right now, content and things, because, it's a lot for them to take on. And that causes a lot of angst. It causes a lot of depression.
Right. And
when you're seeing everybody's living their best life, you're not.
Right.
And
I would say no one really should be living their best life right now
because we're
quarantine. But I do notice that this summer a lot of the screen time was increased. There was nothing to do. You couldn't go to a park. The sports activities were canceled. So the kids were not sleeping because they didn't have energy that they burned off during the day. So they really were like up all night, and there's physical manifestations of that, not getting enough adequate sleep. And then we're not going to even get into the diet. So, it just has impacted kids mentally, physically, and now educationally. And so that's why I wanted to bring you all together so that we could just have a discussion. And I'm sure there's many more points that we can discuss in the near future. But I just kind of wanted to start here and get everybody's perspective. Does anyone else have anything else to add about what's going on? Any resources in the community that might help parents or students?
I would really like to, again, encourage parents to know that we are all on duty and on site, and we're just a phone call away. If there's anything that we can do to further support their process, even I'm coming up with in-home behavior support plans and such. So just keeping that communication open with the school personnel, even sending out a little message in the inbox when your child is logged on. Just know that we're here.
Well, I think this brings an end to our discussion. This is our new normal. We're doing the best we can with what we have. And so I just appreciate all the parents, the teachers, the psychologists, the students. We're all trying our very best to cope with the virtual learning experience. And so I'm hoping we can continue having discussions and figuring out the solutions to some of the issues. So I really appreciate everyone for joining me in this discussion. And that's pretty much it. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.